exclusively online. The Positive Difference. Tower Radio.
Cool.
Scott Benton, the Conservative MP for Blackpool South, has breached parliamentary rules. When he was elected in December 2019, he was a councillor in Yorkshire and has controversially retained that paid position over a year later. The Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards found that he had failed to register 6 entries of financial interests within the official deadline. These were payments for research work for a Conservative MP and his work as a councillor for Brighouse Ward on Calderdale Council. As a councillor, he is also facing a council standards hearing on separate matters in the next few weeks. He has failed to offer comments to his local newspaper in Halifax regarding this hearing.
Fleetwood and Blackpool. Online radio for your town.
Going back in time on the sounds of the nation, it's a flashback.
This is, some of you remember, this rejoiced in the brand name originally of the Alfresco Pavilion. And me being the dummy that occasionally I am, thought to myself, Alfresco Pavilion, that's a very grand name. Never even thinking outdoors, alfresco, and this was it. This was the Alfresco Pavilion. So you could sit and watch a show, or you could go dancing there at nights in the open air. And the concert party, the Marine Follies, as they call them, performed on there. And then some of you will remember the Great Green Hut that followed it, which rejoiced in the name of the Marine Pavilion, which started out presenting dancing. On the nights when the ballroom in the Marine Hall had its main dancing night, the Follies went in the Marine Pavilion on that night. But of course it was even more famous for its occupation as a boxing and wrestling arena, and all the great men of the day came there. And I've always had a fascination with professional wrestling, the massive con, as we all know, but the sheer showbiz of it and so on, and to think one man that I never never saw, although he was actually wrestling in my lifetime, was a man called Bert Azarati, who was the British, European and at one time world heavyweight champion. He was of Italian extraction, East Ender, believed to be the strongest individual in the world in his day, and most wrestlers wouldn't even face him. And he was like the notorious Les Keller. Do you remember Les Keller? Now everybody laughed at Les Keller, because he used to do this kind of drunken thing where he bounced off the ropes and grinned and no teeth in and all that. Apparently the nastiest man in a wrestling ring, hard to believe, totally vicious. If he said to somebody submit and he had them in a hand grip like that, he would break their hands rather than not let them submit. So that's why he won a lot of bouts. And Bert Azarati was exactly the same. And why I've been fascinated with him, my gran, when I was a tiny little boy, used to make me beat my chest. I don't know why, but I always remember doing it like this and shouting Bert Azarati. And I later found out why he was. But he appeared at Fleetwood many times in the Marine Pavilion. And the remarkable thing was, I found one write-up about these wrestlers, and Azarati and another guy from London, who some of you won't no doubt remember, another vicious soul called Steve Logan. Do you remember? And he had black hair that came down like curtains. Logan was wrestling there at the Marine Hall, at the Marine Pavilion, at the same time as Azarati. So he was very old. He must have been wrestling well into his 60s. Mick McManus wrestled there, 1948. And he was wrestling in the 70s, so he was a pretty old.
Jack Pye, did he?
Jack Pye wrestled there. He was, as always, the biggest attraction at the Pavilion and the Marine Hall. Always a guaranteed sellout when Jack Pye was on. Known originally as the Doncaster Panther, but because he was from a mining family near Rossington, Doncaster, a pretty tough individual, Jack, and But a very nice guy underneath all that, and a great worker for charity.
From the Irish Sea to the Bowland Hills, this is your online radio.
The Healthier Fleetwood organisation has issued the following statement. We are working closely with Fleetwood and District Amateur Swimming Club and other members of the community to find a way to reopen Fleetwood Swimming Pool and the other facilities safely and responsibly as soon as possible. Open and frank conversations with Wyre Council and YMCA Fyle Coast have started, and it's clear that the health and safety regulations, which will need to be in place for the future, will affect attendance numbers and therefore the income. Running the Fleetwood facility is a significant challenge for the operators. We understand this, but it does not alter the fact that it leaves the town without a pool and other leisure facilities at the very time that they are needed most. Dr. Mark Spencer of Healthier Fleetwood added, swimming and exercise improves physical and mental health for everyone, and the Fleetwood pool offers valuable opportunities for those with a disability or low self-confidence to swim in a safe environment. Maintaining the facility is essential as the community looks to rebuild and grow in the months ahead. Along with Fleetwood Swimming Club, it is our intention to continue the discussions and work with Wyre Council and the YMCA Fyle Coast to find a positive solution, and we will welcome any interested parties to support our aims.
Your voice.
Your good news station.
Here's a short summing up of the early Fyle Coast. Fleetwood didn't exist. Lytham and St Anne's didn't exist. Blackpool didn't really exist. Bispam was a small village that was in the Domesday Book, and the church there was quite significant for the area for 500 years. Poulton was a little village, and it had a port, of course, on the river itself, so it was of some significance. But Blackpool was a tiny hamlet by the sea. During the 18th century, it became fashionable for the well-to-do to travel to the seaside in the summer. People believed that bathing in seawater could cure diseases. I mean, it's good for you, but of course it was a bit of a con. It wasn't really. And drinking it was awful, but that was encouraged. Visitors came to Blackpool round about 1750, from thereabouts. However, Blackpool remained a very small place until 1781. In that year, two men, Thomas Clifton and Sir Henry Horton, built a private road to Blackpool, and that made it easier.